Tearlament is not dead, and in fact it just got better. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode we are talking about Tearlament Fiendsmith, which if you don't know, Tearlament Fiendsmith is just a better version of Tearlament, because now we can play 40 cards again. If you don't know, also, the Fiendsmith cards specifically allow you to play Beatrice, which is a crazy powerful card that allows you to do the Tearlament half of your engine with the Fiendsmith stuff, and the Tearlament stuff also gets into the Fiendsmith half. So they just synergize very, very well because of that. That's pretty much it. Let's quickly do the card by card. Also, if you don't know what Tearlament does, where have you been? I've been covering it several times on this channel, and you will see generally how it works. Mostly it synergizes around this card in particular, Tear Kit, which on special either sends or searches a card. It allows you to reborn from either hand or grave, and then send a card to the graveyard. If it sends itself, it mills 5. It doesn't have to send itself to mill 5, but if it's sent to the graveyard via card effect, it mills 5. It's insane. It's incredibly powerful, and is almost always going to eat some sort of interaction. Okay, that's not true, but like generally that's what people hold their interactions for. That being said, let's quickly do the card by card. Starting off with Seamare as well as Rhinoheart. These basically do the same thing. Rhinoheart's a little bit better, so we're playing 3 of him, obviously. But basically, they do the same thing, which is sending a Tearlament monster to the graveyard. And we're playing 5 because I really like having 5 normal summons in a 40-card deck. It allows me to, especially if they are so close in nature, where they're pretty much doing the same thing. It just basically allows me to have at least 1 normal summon in my hand, and rarely have 2, but not have many hands with 0 normal summons. That's generally what it is. I haven't done the math on it to see if it's actually that way, but it just feels good, so that's what we're doing. Anyway, for the rest of the cards, we have the other Tearlament monsters that we are sending, the 1 Havness and the 2 Sheeran, to send them to the graveyard to fusion summon. We're also playing the 1 Tear Cache, as well as 3 Scream, 1 apiece of Crime, Celiac, and Heartbeat, as well for our spells. And that's pretty much it. We're also running it the Kashtira, the smallest Kashtira engine, that being the Fenris and the Pressured Planet Wraithsoth, mostly just to get into the Tearlament Kashtira, and as well as like additional bodies for like Fiendsmith stuff. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the cards are Fiendsmith and or associated non-engine. So we're playing the 2 Engraver and 3 Tract. I have heard a lot of people say, why are you playing 3 Tract? So let me break this down very succinctly. Tract does 2 things. 1, it allows you to do the Fiendsmith stuff. And 2, it allows you to discard for effect a Tearlament card. Which means, not only does it allow you to get your Fiendsmith engine online, it also allows you to either extend or start your Tearlament combo. So, if I have Fiendsmith Tract in hand alongside Engraver, that is not a bad thing. Engraver's also at 2, so we want to max out on the number of tracts that we are playing so that we can see Fiendsmith. Make sense? Makes sense. Let's move on. Also, it has a graveyard effect, so if it gets sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to do a fusion summon, which is also pretty good. It's not insane, but it's not bad to mill it. Cool. As for the rest of the cards, we're also playing the 1 Lurie, and then that's pretty much it for the Fiendsmith stuff. The rest are just non-engine, 2 Maxi, the 1 Fairy Tale Snow, each of the Shufflers. We're playing it 2 Perulia. Perulia is in here specifically because it is an Aqua Water monster, which synergizes extremely well with these guys. Rhinoheart, Kaleidoheart, Kitkalos, etc. Very, very useful. On top of that, they also synergize with like Mudragon and Garuda, so that's something of note to keep in mind as well. So there you go. That's kind of why we're playing it. We're also playing, of course, the 2 Fuwalas as well. You could play 3, but I feel like it's better to have, instead of more Molcharmies, because they aren't great into specific matchups, it's better to have other options, especially in a best of 1 ladder. Speaking of other options, we are playing the Bestials, 1 apiece of Bestial, Druisworm, Magnamut, and Baldrake. We're also running the 2 Triple Tack, because I think Triple Tack is extremely good in Fiendsmith Tearlament, and just in Tearlament in general, every single one of the options is fantastic, because almost every tier card gets you into the game. So drawing cards is good, taking control of an opponent's card to do the Fiendsmith combo is very good, and looking at the opponent's hand is also very good, especially since there's so many hand traps. This card is just extremely good. We're also not playing Called By specifically, and instead playing the triple tack, so this is kind of the Called By slot. And the main reason for that is because Called By in this deck doesn't really do anything. We don't really care about Ash or Valor, or I mean, we kind of care about Valor, but we don't care about Ash or Maxi or Fua or Perulia or anything of that nature that a single Called By would really help us with. That's pretty much it. We're also playing the 2 Super Poly as well. Yeah, I just decided on the Super Poly. I was thinking of other cards that could be playable here, and none of them really made sense. Droll, not really all that great in Tearlament, because the reason to play Droll, similarly, is you either are playing it... you either play it because it's extremely good into the metagame, which it's not. It's okay. It's not bad. Or you play it to stop the draw cards, which a lot of decks want to do right now, which is, I think, the biggest reason to play it, is that it's okay into the current metagame, and it's really good at helping you push through these cards, which, again, Tearlament doesn't care about nearly as much. So, again, not playing Droll, not playing Nib as well, which could have also been useful. Instead, we're playing Super Poly. The extra deck is pretty simple. We're playing the 2 Super Poly targets in Garura and Muddragon. We're playing the 3 Tearlament fusions. We're also playing one apiece of the Fiendsmith Lacrima and Fiendsmith Desiree, and that is it for the fusions. Lots of fusions in here, actually, surprisingly. Then we also are playing 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Time Thief Redoer, and 1 Dugaris for our Tearlament combos. Abyss Dweller is also extremely good right now. Hey, nice Fiendsmith grave you have there. It'd be a shame if it didn't do anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're also playing the 1 Beatrice in order to send cards to the graveyard. This is also not bad to have, like, on your field during the opponent's turn, because you can just do the Tearlament combo during the opponent's turn. Very nice. We're also playing 4 Link monsters, the Requiem, the Moon, the Sequence, and of course, Appo. Appo's also crazy. So let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so here we are going first, and let's see what we can accomplish. We're starting off here with the, just kidding, there's a Perulia. Okay, we're going to start off here with the Fenris nonetheless, and we're going to activate the Fenris to grab up the cash tier, or the tier cash. We're going to go for the track tier in order to grab up Luria. Luria is going to be special summon in... Here comes Fua. Okay, I'm going to give them 2 more draws here with the Kitkalos search here. So we're going to go for Kitkalos, which gives them the draw for Fua and the Perulia. We're going to mill some cards and grab up Crime and just pass and kind of pray, hope and pray that they don't have anything here. They're going to normal summon the Pydra. I have to tell you, the reason, here's the thought process, right? There's basically 2 things that they can do here, right? With the normal summon Pydra, likely they don't have the field spell in their hand, which means that they don't have access to that. And if this gets negated, that means their only real course of action here is to activate the quick play spell. There's literally nothing else at this point that they can do, just straight up. So, if they activate the quick play spell, first of all, they would have to have that specifically, which is not necessarily out of the question. But if they do have that, we do still have the ability to go for tier cash, not tier cash. We have the ability to go for Scream, and we have the ability to go for tier cash, right? Before they go to the battle phase. On top of that, Fenris is not, like, terrible here. If they were to, for example, go for, like, a Genroku to special summon something, we could then banish with the Fenris, so it's not, like, that terrible of an outcome, right? It could be pretty bad, given the fact that, like, they could, you know, do a whole bunch of things, but, like, Fenris here is, like, not bad, right? So, I feel like the best course of action, given the fact that they normal summon a Pydra, is likely to just activate the Crime. If they had the field spell, they would have activated that first, and so yeah, I just go for this. We pitch the Fua, and they pass the turn. Fantastic! Alright, we're going to draw into Scream as well. We're going to activate the Kitkalos, which gets popped by Ghost Ogre. Why are we playing Ghost Ogre? Sure. We're going to mill 11 there, and my opponent just concedes. 10 pie. Hooray. Alright, here we are, once again, going first. This hand is really good. Let's see what we can do here. we're going to start off here with the Simare, which will be promptly negated by a Veiler. I'm going to look at the hand, and this is another Tenpai player. I know, crazy. But keep in mind what I actually end up doing here. I actually take a DD Crow. The reason for this is pretty simple, except it's not. I'm lying to you. Basically, they have a Song and Summoning and a Song and Kaimen. If I were to just simply go, okay, I'm going to take one of those, continue to play from there, I'm going to get swiftly stopped by DD Crow, and then they're just going to kill me. So the idea here is I need to do as best I can and hope that my mills are like fairly decent in order to just kind of do the most to play through a single DD Crow that can beat both a Song and Summoning and a Song and Kaimen. That's the idea. That's what we're going with. Let's see what we can do here. We're going to go for the Sheeran here, and then we did end up milling, but it wasn't that great of mills. We're going to go for the Dugaris, and I'm actually going to special summon by skipping my main phase 1. Now, this may seem a bit strange, but the reason is because we did mill a Rhino Heart. So if they were to end up going for the DD Crow there, sure, that's fine. We just bring back something like a Sheeran or what have you, and then we can then link off into the full Fiendsmith combo and go for Beatrice and go for the Beatrice line. So that's one of the options here. But now we can go for the Rhino Heart, which will promptly eat the Havness, which will be sent, which will then eat the DD Crow. So now we can go for the Fiendsmith line, and because we still have the Druvis Worm in hand, we still can make the Beatrice and kind of go from there. So we're going to special summon out the Druvis Worm here, and then I'm going to actually link these two off into sequence before actually going into the Beatrice. We're going to go into Lacrima. Lacrima is then going to special summon the Engraver. We still haven't activated the Engraver, so I make sure with the Beatrice that I make to detach the Engraver to send Sheeran. Sheeran is then going to activate its effect, shuffling back 2 to make the Kit Kalos. Kit Kalos effect is going to send to the graveyard. The Tear Cache is then going to be special summoned back with the Kit Kalos. We're going to mill 8 and feel great. And wow, those were not great mills. However, we might be able to do something, and the main reason for that I say this is because we did end up milling another Light Fiend. Previously we didn't have that, now we do, so that means that we can go and actually special summon the Engraver and keep Beatrice on field while still being able to make something here, which ends up being the Apollosa, which is very, very useful. This means we have a Beatrice to contest the field spell and Apollosa to contest the quick play, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. However, I do actually allow them to keep the Song and Summoning and use its effect. The reason being is because if I chain here, sure, they get like the search here, but I can either make Rukalos, which then contests something like a Genroku or a Chundra, or I can get the Huzuma, and shuffle away the monster, or shuffle away the field spell, and then if they were to normal summon a monster here, we can just negate. Then if they go for the quick play, and we can negate that one as well. It's still not great. I think I did kind of goof, all things considered. But then they end up ashing me, and I go, oh, okay, so yeah, no, I do win. Because they have to search out the Pydra, and then they pitch the quick play, and then I get to go for the Sheeran and the Lacrima effect to chain block as well, so we deal 12. Then we get to go for the Kaleido Heart. We're just going to shuffle away the field spell to allow them to be interacted with. Then we negate here with the Apollosa. They just go to the combat phase, walk over this guy, and that's A-OK. However, they do end up also making Typhon here, which is not exceptional for me, but it's fine for the most part, because we do just get to go and do the full Fiendsmith stuff. So our main phase 1 is skipped. We just go to battle to go to main phase 2. So basically, it's just like our first turn as well. Anyway, we put back the Lacrima in order to summon out the Engraver into Requiem, Requiem into Engraver, equip with Requiem, send the Typhon, and link 2 into Sequence here. Sequence is then going to use its effect in order to shuffle back 2 to go into Lacrima. Also, one thing of note, I will say, Sequence can also summon any of your Tearlament monsters. It just is a fusion summon. That's all it does. You just fusion summon it by shuffling the materials. As long as it is a fiend. Sorry. Fusion summon a fiend. It's not any, it's this guy in particular. It's Kaleido Heart. You can summon a Kaleido Heart. It's kind of interesting. It may come up occasionally, but not too often. Here we're going to go for the fusion summon of Desiree, and at this point my opponent realizes that they're writing on the wall and just concedes. So, yeah, good game. Desiree contests whatever they end up having there, so they just concede. Alright, so here we are going second, and hey, Perulia. So we're going to fire the Perulia here, and yeah, that works. And then my opponent reveals that they are on Fiendsmith. So out comes the whole Fiendsmith line. Out comes the Lurie. Lurie is going to activate its effect. They're going to special summon itself, and then they're going to go into the Requiem. Requiem is going to activate. Just kidding! I lied to you. They had the second engraver in hand. So they're actually playing the Labyrinth. So now we know that they're on Lab. And now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this right now. It is a 90-10 matchup. Lab versus Tear. Reason being, Tearlament has the gas with pretty much any hand to push through anything that Tear does, or, sorry, Lab does, outside of, like, simultaneous equation cannon? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or, like, no, they even can play around Dimensional Barrier. So, outside of, like, simultaneous equation cannon, pretty much Labyrinth doesn't do anything against this deck. You can just push through anything. So it's just, like, a really, really bad matchup. Yeah, you require, like, very specific draws. You require, like, go first or, like, hit, like, a really bad hand from a Tearlament player. It's just not great. That being said, I want to show you, even with the Fiendsmith stuff, why it is bad. This does allow them to play a bit more and, like, actually do a bit more against Tearlament. Like, having an Omni Negate matters a lot more, but this hand is extremely good for me. I have all of my engines and all of the really most powerful cards for those engines. So my opponent out comes the Desiree, and they're going to equip it with both of their Link monsters. So now it has 3 negates, but that's not really all that big of a deal. They also do get to pitch the rollback. So this is a very, very solid setup for my opponent. They have Welcome, they have Rollback, they have Big Welcome, and they have Desiree, which is probably the best that they could get. Maybe, obviously, having, like, other better traps would be a little bit better, but for the most part, in terms of just, like, start that Lab has, it's hard to see of a better one. Right? And we draw Scream for turn. So let's see what we can do here. We're going to start off here with the Fenris. We're going to grab up the Tear Cache, and then we're going to go for the Tract. They decide to negate here. I don't actually hate this negate, mostly due to the fact that negating the Fenris and preventing the Fiendsmith engine is not necessarily a bad idea. The problem is that they already know that I grabbed the Tear Cache, so likely I am playing Tearlament, in which case maybe you hold it for Kitkalos or something of that nature alongside the Fenris. So that's all that I would say. They do end up special summoning here, and they just do this incorrectly. Realistically, no world should you summon the first monster of Lady or Lovely Lab. I get why they do it, but you just need as much interaction here as you can get, and summoning Lovely here is just not very good, because it's not necessarily an additional piece of interaction. And the reason I say this is because if you were to summon Lovely here, sure, it protects you from Ash or Ghost Spell or something of that nature. That's nice, right? I can't interact in this moment. That's nice. However, the problem is you don't get to then set an additional card off of a Lady, nor do you get access to that additional trap, which I think is way more important. Because basically, if you don't have something like a simultaneous equation cannon, which is highly unlikely with the Fiendsmith variant, nor do you have a, like, destructive Daruma or dimensional barrier or something of that nature to stop the Tearlament turn, you're just going to get cooked. You're just going to get run over, and they're just going to out-advantage you pretty much consistently. So, I understand the idea. I think it's just not worth it. If they have the Ash Blossom, you just lose the game anyway, regardless, because they would have just ashed that, right? So it's like, this is just the incorrect play. They are going to pop a card. Wow, that's crazy. They're going to pop, gee, I wonder what it could be. Yeah, against Tearlament, this seems like a great idea. Yeah, let's pop the spell that searches a spell, or a trap. Anyway, we're going to go Rhinoheart into the Havnus into the Kitkalos into Scream. Also, remember, Perulia, that's why we're able to keep all of our materials. We're going to send it there in order to go into Sheeran, and we're going to mill 8 and feel great. We hit 2 engravers, awesome. My opponent's going to click buttons and do nothing. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that they have at this point is this, which, again, doesn't do anything since they've already used both of their welcomes. Yeah, they've used their big welcome and stuff like that. This is another reason why, like, this play in particular was, like, particularly bad. So, yeah, again, just kind of goofy. Anyway, we go for the engraver line. We're going to go for the sequence after making the Rukolos. Here we go for the Abyss Dweller, and I actually am just going to immediately fire the Abyss Dweller, because, again, it turns off this, but it also turns off Desiree. If you don't know, Desiree has an effect, where if it's sent to the graveyard, you shuffle one other Light Fiend from your grave into the deck or extra deck, then target a card on the field, and send it to the grave. So yeah, this just turns that off, which means now I can kill my opponent. So we're going to go for the Engraver line here. We're going to go Engraver and send the Lady, or Lovely. Out comes Sequence. Sequence is going to then fusion summon into the Lacrima. We're going to then use the Lacrima effect in order to grab up the Engraver, and hey, that's lethal. So I just go to combat here. We're going to walk over the entire field. My opponent is going to attempt to activate the Lady Lab, and I'm going to promptly negate it and send away my Scream. I don't even have to send my Rukalos there, even though I could send it and then re-special summon it to get an additional attack. But alas, I didn't. So good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this is one of the decks that does receive a big boost due to the Engraver in particular. This guy is incredibly useful, and with Beatrice in tow, it is also incredibly useful. So all in all, just a solid addition to Tearlament. Also, most notably, it allows Tearlament to play a 40-card list as opposed to a 60-card list. Could you absolutely still play a 60-card list? Of course, you could still add additional cards into this, most notably things like Grass, Thrust, etc., as well as the Horus engine in order to facilitate even more big Wombo Combo Turbo. I'm not as big of a fan of that variant, just not something up my alley nearly as much, even though I've played it a ton. It's just not nearly something as enjoyable as something like this, and so for the most part I do enjoy playing something closer to 40. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, I like it very much, so appreciate it, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.